All right, what is happening, ladies and gentlemen? This is take 2 of the introduction of the Joe Begley podcast. I am here outside of the usual studio in not Enfield, Connecticut, because I have been kicked out of the studio. I didn't get banned. I got relegated and put away on a little 10-day lockdown. If you haven't picked up on it yet, I got COVID. Yeah, not good. Saturday, I got diagnosed. Friday night, me and a couple of the boys went and got some beverages. Started off with a little vodka Red Bull, moved on to the vodka sodas, ended up chugging some beers, and when I woke up Saturday morning, I felt like imminent death. I legit thought I was going to die. I woke up Saturday morning, 5 a.m., I'm puking my brains out, get some water, go back to sleep. 8 a.m., I'm puking my brains out, drive back to my house from my buddy's house. I'm sitting there, and I'm like sweating. I'm not feeling good. I go, I got to get a COVID test. Now, this was the day that I was supposed to be headed out on the road anyway, you know? I was really supposed to just bounce out, go down to New York, do some shows down there, continue to D.C., see my buddy in D.C., see some friends in Virginia, keep going south and further south and just see what the fuck happens. But I got put on a little bit of a delay here. Now, the plan originally was actually just to get a COVID test before I took off anyway, you know? It's the right thing to do. Make sure that you're not running around the East Coast of the United States infecting people. So I had a little something booked for 11 a.m. Roll into the testing center. I get there and, like, I'm not feeling good at all, you know? But I think it's just a gnarly hangover at this point. So I go into the office. I'm telling them my symptoms. It sounds more like a hangover than it does COVID. And admittedly, I am a mess from the night of drinking that I did before. Guy's looking at me, I go, you know, what are the usual symptoms? He goes, honestly, for dudes your age, it's so wide-ranging, it's hard to pin down. I'm like, well, give me something. He goes, well, if you're 27 years old and you pick up COVID, you could be completely asymptomatic. You could have absolutely nothing going on. Or, you know, you could be fucking hyper fever, coughing your brains out, sick as a dog. And so I go, okay. Takes my fever. I do like a 98.5, which is like a little high for me. It's about 1.5 degrees higher. I'm a cold-blooded motherfucker. You know, I'm usually in the high 96s, right around 97 degrees. But that day, I was a little bit higher, so my alarm bells are going off. He's like, that seems good. And I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, that's not the normal range. He goes, you got any other symptoms? I tell him I'm wicked hungover. He goes, you got a cough or anything? I'm like, no, you know, I got nothing in that department. He goes, you got like a headache? I'm like, right now I do. I definitely have a headache right now. And so what happens is when you leave the testing center, the new protocol at this testing center is that they're going to run all the tests. They're going to figure out what's wrong with you. And then basically once they're done with all that, they're going to call you in a half hour if you've got it. And if you don't have it, they're just not going to call you. Which to me might be just the fucking stupidest system ever invented. It's incredibly dumb because what happened is in previous cases, I haven't got the call, you know, and I just go, oh, I don't have COVID, but you can never completely skate. You're like, well, what if they forgot, you know, and they call me back in 2 hours and you're like, hey man, we completely fucked up. Sorry, your test took a little longer than expected. You have COVID. So you're always a little worried. This time, literally within 5 minutes of leaving the center, I get the call. Guy goes, hey, you're positive. You need to quarantine for the next 10 days. So I get home, get to where I'm staying at my parents' place. I like yell into the door with a mask on. I'm like, Mom, I have the vid. She's like immediately furious at me. Furious because she knows I did some shows that week. You know, I put them at risk. It's not the best look for me, obviously. And so they weren't too thrilled with me. What can you do? I don't expect them to be happy with me. So I fucking go, all right, I basically just like take whatever I've got, whatever I have immediate access to, and fucking jump in the car and come over here. I shut it down. So Saturday, I'm not going to lie to you, was one of the most sick I've been in fucking, I don't know, years. Actually, not years. Last March when I got sick, which it's still TBD if I got COVID, but last March was probably the most sick I've been in this decade for sure. But Saturday was a very close second. I woke up Saturday, like I fucking am just trying to go through my day. The headache is just ripping. The nausea's terrible. I was puking. I think it wasn't necessarily COVID. I think COVID and a world-class German beer hangover, when you combine those two things, it's not necessarily the most pleasant thing you've ever had to deal with. So I was a mess. I was fucked up. And that night I go to sleep. And I wake up on Sunday morning and I have like sweated through my sheets, my blanket, and my comforter. It was disgusting. It was literally like I pissed the bed. Terrible. So I'm thinking, man, I didn't test positive for a fever, but I would be shocked if I didn't have one right now. So Saturday, Sunday, I take like 3 showers both days because it's literally the only thing in this world that feels good. I am subsiding on a diet of wonton soup that my mom was nice enough to drop off for me outside. You know, a little miso. And I was not feeling great at all. It was actually a world-class mess. A complete mess. So the sickness is not feeling good. I'm like, oh, this is brutal. But by Monday, I start to feel a little bit better. You know, Tuesday. Woo, there it is. There's the vid. There's the Rona. Tuesday, I'm feeling way better. Wednesday, I'm like pretty much completely asymptomatic. I'm rocking and rolling. So it's a bit of a bummer because we had this show on Wednesday, and so far from the show, like 5 comics have tested positive. I did 2 shows on Wednesday. One of them, nobody tested positive except me. And the other one, pretty much every comic on the show tested positive. So you do the math there. I think we know where this thing might have came from, but it was a fucking shit show. So a bunch of comics are down with the Rona right now. Who knows? We might put some shit together with some of them, get together, maybe do a little pod, figure out what's going on. But we're a mess. You know, we're the COVID crew. Now this shit, it's kind of crazy because a lot of us, it's nuts. One of the guys on the show, Artie Robb, a friend of mine, is a 62-year-old black man that is an overweight alcoholic. Artie, I fucking love you. You're my guy. And he's not that overweight, but I like to bust his balls a little bit. Got a little beer gut going on. Artie didn't even get it. He fucking just cleared it. He's like, no, it's because I wasn't talking too close to you motherfuckers. It's like, Artie, dude, you're a fucking legend. I don't know how you didn't get this. So he fucking rubbed it right off. He was totally fine. As for the quarantine, you know, I got 10 days of this. So we say bare earliest, say we got it Wednesday and started getting sick on Saturday. So this is day 8. Mentally, physically, I feel completely fine. Today was the first day I did exercise, did a little basement workout, feeling nice, you know. And that was great, but mentally, oh boy, this is a struggle. This is not fucking fun. It's not fun at all. I'm sitting here every day, and it's amazing to me because a lot of people have lived the last year like this, just literally never leaving the house, working from home, not talking to anybody. A lot of people live by themselves and quarantined for the entire year last year, and if you did that, God bless you, but I really don't know how that's even possible because the way time flowed for the last week has been just one of the most bizarre things I've ever experienced, right? Like Saturday was slow, Sunday was slow, but then Monday through Wednesday, it was almost like a blackout. Like it didn't even happen. You're just in the same place, doing the same shit every day, living on the same schedule. It's just, you wake up and it's Saturday afternoon, you're like, damn, we're almost out of this thing. So I think it's a true thing. The time is really based on experiences, and the more shit you do, the more time you spend getting out there and doing different stuff, time slows down, right? If you're one of those people where like the last year, you know, has gone by wicked fast, I'm telling you, next year, if you pick up a hobby and monitor your progress on that, or you go out and live different places and check out different shit, time fucking slows down. Time speeds up when you spend it in the same place every single day because your memories get sort of logged and one just erases the one before that, you know? If Tuesday and Wednesday are exactly the same, your mind has no need to store it. But when I was running through the Eurozone, I remember getting there, flying to Norway, and the first 3 days, I was somewhere different each of the first 3 days. It was in Oslo and then Flom and fucking running through these national parks and stuff. And I remember being 72 hours into the trip and being like, that felt like a fucking month of time. So if you want to slow time down, dead serious, go do a bunch of different shit. Trust me. And then also like the slow progress on something new, like, you know, learn how to play guitar or something, that also really, really changes everything. Really changes everything. But one thing that I've done every single day is I've been watching movies and shit. I've seen 3. I watched Uncut Gems. I know a lot of people that hated that movie. If you hated that movie, I understand why. I mean, most movies, it's a build tension, release tension type vibe, right? You have an event. There's a little conflict. There's a conflict resolution. Uncut Gems was like conflict, more conflict, more conflict, more conflict. Just things getting poured on top of each other. It's fucking awesome. It gave me a bit of an anxiety attack, but that was kind of cool. Watched The Departed. I watched, oh my God, what's that movie about the financial crisis? The Big Short. That was cool. Got me thinking, though. Really got me thinking just about sort of the way everything's going right now. And the way financially everything's going. Because the whole movie basically is about how there were all these indicators. Basically people were going to default on their mortgages because they were giving mortgages to people who really couldn't afford them, and the odds of them paying it back, they said the odds were better than it was, and they were mislabeling the ratings, which is basically just like a way of saying what the odds of these things getting paid back are. I don't really need to explain it to you because I'm going to do a shitty fucking job with it anyway. But the idea here for me, my big takeaway is like, what are we missing right now? What is the 2008 financial crisis of right now? Because it kind of seems right now with like the stock market hitting all-time highs and crypto breaking new records seemingly every month, that perhaps, just perhaps, we're pushing onto something new like this right now as we speak. Because I think I wasn't alone when, we had those back-to-back 10% stock market cuts when COVID first hit, and everybody was freaking out and thinking like, okay, this is it. This is the 2020 financial crisis. And then we rebound and we're higher than we were a year ago. I don't think anybody saw this coming, right? I don't think anybody saw this coming at all. I don't think anybody really realized, how much of a difference the stimulus was going to make. But for me, sitting there thinking, it's got to be 2009, and a lot of people lost their shirts. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people sort of feel like, how the fuck did I miss that in 2008? And I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but I kind of feel like in 2022, a lot of people are going to be sitting there going like, how did we miss that? Sometime in the next few years, I feel like just financially, everything's going to crumble. We're all going to sit there going, how the fuck did we miss those indicators, Because right now, unemployment is still pretty fucking high, right? The amount of indebtedness as a country is extremely high. The deficit obviously was massive last year because of all the stimulus and all the spending, and that makes the debt go up. And so we're breaking records with debt every year. That's nothing new. But I think we might be in a bit of a situation. Like, what the fuck is going to happen when it actually cracks, Will the U.S. default on their debts? This is not what you guys subscribe to this podcast for, so I'm going to stop. Y'all don't need to fucking financial advice from your boy. But all I'm saying is that I've got, starting to move some money out of the markets and preparing for what I think is a little bit of a crack in the system. I'm watching out. I've done it before. I've moved money out of the markets before and lost a ton of fucking money because I am a inherently cynical individual when it comes to financial markets. That's what the UVM School of Economics will do. If you guys don't know, by the way, UVM Economics is probably one of the more liberal economic colleges in the United States. We practice something known as Keynesian economics, which is the idea that the U.S. government should cut taxes and increase spending every time a crisis happens, which is basically what we've done. I mean, that's sort of the most left-wing economic theory. We had the Trump administration practicing that over the course of the last year. Nobody really talks about that economically Trump was pretty fucking liberal during that period. I mean, he did cut taxes for a lot of corporations, but we were fucking spending money like crazy, and he was on board with it. Nutso. But, I used to believe in that, but I think at some point now we seem to be in a perpetual crisis where there's always a need to cut interest rates and increase spending at all times. And we might have to pay the bar tab at some point. I'm just saying, I'm trying to get some form ready to do it. But the thing is, a lot of people think that the way to avoid that is put money in cryptocurrency, which is an interesting idea for sure, because they think Bitcoin would be a hedge against inflation, right? And I agree to an extent. But I think that if you look at the value of cryptocurrencies during the 2020 crash, they crashed along with the financial system for a second there and the stock market. So that doesn't necessarily hold up. And it's continued to do so. They don't map exactly together, but there is a strong correlation between the stock market and cryptocurrency prices. So just keep that in mind. If you're like, oh, the economic system's going to fall apart, crypto's going to be fine, a lot of that is tied to economic activity. So just keep that in mind. If everything falls apart in crypto, you might lose your shirt too. In some cases, even worse. Just an idea. But I guess the last thing that I want to get into here, and this is a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more fun. The last movie that I watched half of it last night, was the movie Waiting. Woo! Brought back some memories, baby. Yeah. Waiting is first of all, I think it was made in like 2005, and it's got the most like 2005 cast ever, which I love, like Justin Long, Ryan Reynolds, that Anna chick who was in all the scary movies and all that, fucking Andy Milonakis, dude. Andy Milonakis. And who's the other guy? Luis Guzman, who my dad always likes to point out is owns more land. He's something like the largest landowner in Vermont or something like that. I don't know. But cool dude, evidently really nice guy, and a resident of the state of Vermont, which is dope. Incredible movie, very fucking funny. And it brought me back to basically the 3 years that I worked in a kitchen. I worked at Suffield Country Club Kitchen, which sounds like a very bougie job. It was not. I made $7.15 an hour, and I worked alongside some of my best friends on planet Earth who I'm still very close with. I fucking love those guys. If you're out there right now and you are, getting to an age where you can have your first job, you might be tempted to go get an internship. You might be tempted to be a lifeguard, and there are perks to all these jobs, but may I just recommend wash dishes at a shitty restaurant? It's the fucking best. There is no greater job on planet Earth. First of all, as a 16-year-old boy, you really don't get access to the types of depravity and drug addiction that you see in a kitchen on a day-to-day basis. It's unbelievable. People at these kitchens, it's the elite cooks go to elite restaurants, and then just your run-of-the-mill line cooks at every single other restaurant in the United States are degenerates. You've got drinking on the job. You've got smoking pot in the hallways. In some cases, you've got people, doing way more serious drugs, a little cocaine, a little heroin. I don't know if there was heroin going on in the Suffield Country Club kitchen or coke, but I did know that there were some people that were very fucked up and in the grips of addiction. Now, this might seem like something that you don't necessarily want, a 16-year-old boy to see, but it's good. It's good because it really checks you into a side of like the underbelly of the society that you really otherwise wouldn't get eyes on. You meet some people. We had 2 people that worked the kitchen. And we're definitely going to talk a little bit of shit about them right now. These were our line cooks at Suffield. And normally I wouldn't talk this type of open shit about people, but a couple of these guys were such dicks to me that it's hard to ignore. We had arguably the funniest man that's ever lived running the kitchen at the time, this guy Cameron. Now, Cameron was an Englishman. He talked extreme shit about the people that worked in the restaurant. We had games that we would play. Like, there was one waitress who could not get her shit together. She was a perpetual fuck up, and I've known her for my entire life, and she was never very nice to me. So it was awesome to just watch her fuck up everything. And then we had bets in the kitchen, over under. She gonna fuck up over or under 3 orders tonight? We do it. We take bets, throw a little money in at the beginning of the night. It was awesome. And then everybody's talking shit. Every time you fuck something up in the dish pit, people are yelling at you. People are, chirping you. But there was one guy, this kid, Owen. And Owen, I'm pretty sure, was a legitimate inbred. You don't... This kid was fucking something else, dude. One of the genuinely the meanest people I've ever met in my entire life. Now, in a kitchen, there's a fair amount of hazing. Like in waiting, there's a game where they play where you try to show other employees your balls. And, in our kitchen, we didn't really have that. It was more so just openly talk shit to each other and call each other fucking idiots and stuff like that. And so Owen literally was one of those guys where he was just so like depraved in the head that he would legitimately talk shit and legitimately didn't like other employees, and other employees didn't like him, so he didn't last very long. But one of my favorite stories from this kitchen is when we were in high school, we were kind of, we weren't like the best behaved kids. I wasn't a model student by any stretch of the imagination. I had some bad tendencies. I was a captain of the cross country team. I decent student, but I did like to get down on the side and have some fun. One thing you got to keep in mind about me, okay? Just keep this in mind, is I am not right now I'm 6'2", I'm in pretty good shape. The ladies like me enough, and my career, my comedy are going pretty good. It wasn't always like this. Coming up, I entered high school at like 5'5". I weighed 80 pounds. I got picked on for most of my life, and so I was a little bit different. I was definitely not in with the cool kids in high school at all. And me and my friends basically were doing other shit, but we would have a ton of fun because I was a local kid. I went to boarding school, but I was still like friends with a lot of the local kids. And so all of my buddies used to work at the restaurant in the dish pit. And so before I'd started, one of my good friends, who I won't say his name, he worked in the dish pit. And so what we used to do is we would get together and we'd hang out. And we'd hang out at this place called like the paddle courts, right? So it's sort of like box tennis. I don't know. It's like a mix of ping pong and tennis. And so people would go up and they'd play paddle ball and hang out, have a good time. And we would go in there like late night and we'd hang out, and do whatever it was we were doing. We'd play paddle. And then at one point, my buddy, who was working in the kitchen, showed up with a couple beers. And basically, we're like, this is fucking great. How'd you get these? And he was, may or may not, I don't want to incriminate anyone, but I believe he was swiping them from the establishment, okay? So he was taking some from under the table and bringing them back. And, okay, this might be too stupid to talk about, but whatever. I don't want to incriminate anybody. This was 10 years ago. Who gives a fuck, Joe? Talk about it. Okay, so we basically would get these beveraginos, and we'd hang out. We'd drink them at the paddle tennis courts, and we'd have a good time. It was like 1 or 2 beers on a Saturday night. It was good. We're 17. We're feeling like fuck kings of the world drinking these beers. So one night we get a little carried away. My buddy just decides that we need to have cold beers. And so we devised a plan to get some cold beers. My buddy basically figures out that he can take one of the bins. At the time, the golfers used to go out with these metal bins, and they'd fill them up with ice and then throw beers in the ice and drink cold beers out on the golf course. So he grabbed one of those buckets, and he filled it up with ice, and he brought it down, and we drank cold beer that night. And we got away with it for a few weeks until, the guy who runs the restaurant starts to notice that there's some beers going missing. And one day, he's pulling in, and he's driving down the hill, and he looks over at the paddle tennis courts, and he sees a empty metal bucket and he looks at it and he puts 2 and 2 together in his head, and he goes, "Those motherfuckers." He immediately realizes everything. When he realized my buddy, the young dishman, was swiping ales from out underneath him. And so he was let go, terminated from his position. And I started shortly after that. And, you know, why the timeline's not really adding up, because I remember him getting fired before I started, but that was 2010, and I started in 2010 as well. Who the fuck knows? I don't really remember. But it was one of the most incredible experiences working in that kitchen, because we made no fucking money, right? You'd work like a 20-hour week, and you get a paycheck for $120. It really humbles the fuck out of you. And you actually meet people who are legitimately funny. I mean, I don't know if you can be funny in stand-up if you never worked in the restaurant biz. That's a fucking fact. People are crazy, out of their minds. So I miss that. I miss that part of my life. And that's one thing that I think is really missing from our society right now with this work from home culture is you don't really have degenerate coworkers in the real world. But if I make it in stand-up, which TBD, we'll see how it goes. But if I do make it in stand-up, I think there's a chance that I would consider taking a day job washing dishes somewhere, because I think it's the fucking best. I enjoy it. Well, this has been great. Where are we at? 26 minutes. Cool beans, man. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. If you were worried about me having COVID and you're worried that I'm going to get sick, don't be. I'm completely fine. And from what I've talked to everyone else that got it on the Wednesday show, they seem to be doing all right too. So we're all good. This is great. You know, I got the best vaccine, the number one vaccine, which is the real OG virus. You know, no 99% on this, 100% effective at blocking COVID for a few months. So that's going to be great. I think I'm going to watch the movie Chinatown tonight. So if anybody wants to jump in and watch Chinatown, talk about it later, we can do that. Okay, guys, if you're listening to this podcast, I fucking love you. Thank you so much. And help me out. Give it a little share. Tell somebody about it, or don't. Keep it our little secret. Who cares? Thank you so much. And oh yeah, one last thing. The old YouTube algorithm is in a bit of a lull for me. Okay, and it's a bit embarrassing. Basically, I went viral off YouTube Shorts. I got 20 million views in like 2 months, but those videos got pulled from rotation because of a little mistake that I made. I accidentally hit the monetization button on my most viral videos, and they got pulled from the Shorts rotation. So my traffic on YouTube went from 500,000 views a day to under 1,000 views a day, and it's frustrating. So if you go on my YouTube channel and you just drop a comment on any one of my videos, it helps, and we need a little jump start to get the fire going in there again, because YouTube is everything with stand-up comedy, and I fucked myself over. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. I love you. Message me on Instagram. I'll respond, okay? Thank you very much. Goodbye.